Hello and welcome. I want to talk to you a little bit about, this is kind of a series of lectures, each of which is related to the next, starting with this one. And it's some subtle points, but some very useful issues and some points of potential confusion. So the first is a really common and really useful thing. So let's start there. And let's look at our entity relationship diagram example. Let's say we have a movie entity. And let's see, some of the attributes might be, I don't know, movie ID. Say we are a Netflix or a Blockbuster or something. I don't know. Well, that will be the primary key. Movie name. That's simple enough. And let's say, that's okay. Not right now. How about find and run robot. Great application. Don't want to mess with it while I'm doing this. And let's say genre is something that we're interested in capturing about a movie. Now, it could be, easily enough, that our decision is that each movie has one and only one genre, in which case this would simply be a plain old attribute. But suppose we wanted to get a little fancier than that, and we wanted to be able to classify one given movie in multiple genre categories. Now, it's perfectly reasonable to go either way, but suppose for the sake of argument we wanted to be able to assign a movie multiple genres. That situation is called a multi-valued attribute, because genre is an attribute. It's not an entity per se. There are not multiple things that we have an interest in capturing about genre. Genre is not important in its own right, but we do have multiple genres that we'd like to capture per movie. Now, the base way to model that, and I know my handwriting is terrible here, is to give a double oval for genre, if in fact you are doing entity relationship modeling where you are including the attributes, which we typically don't because it clutters the diagram. The diagram is complicated enough without that. So that's simple enough. If it's multi-valued, draw a double oval instead of a single oval. But that doesn't really immediately give you a game plan for what you're going to do when the time comes to implement your database in a database management system in SQL. So this is fine as an intermediate stage, but eventually it's got to become the following. Okay? Movie has genre. And I know we just finished saying genre is not an entity in its own right, and that's true, but this is how we have to look at things in terms of implementation. So we say a given instance of a movie has multiple genres. This N is what makes it a multi-valued attribute. And we could say a given genre has associated with it multiple movies, because certainly there are going to be many horror movies and many comedies and so forth, but that would give us I wish it would stop doing that. Okay, yeah, change it to basic. I don't care. That's fine. That would give us an obligation to keep record of every time a movie has a particular genre and assign that unique identity. And that is that's not useful. There's just no way that's useful. What we do instead is the following. We take a tool that we just added to our toolkit here, the weak entity, and we do something along this line, right? So we say a given movie has multiple genres, hence the multi-valued attribute. A given genre is associated with at most one movie, which we know is not true, but what this tells us is we can keep track of a given movie's genres without the laborious process of keeping a unique track of every time a movie and a genre come together. So what this allows us to do, just to kind of fast forward ahead, is we will have a movie table, and that'll have the movie info, but then the genre table will just be the following. Genre, movie ID, comma, genre. And I know genre is not coming through very well there. Imagine that this says genre. And so these two things together will be a key. Genre alone is not unique. So let me write this a little better. Genre, movie ID, comma, genre, let's say name, right? So these things will provide uniqueness. Genre name, comedy. Nothing unique about that. Comedy is going to show up in movie after movie after movie, but in movie, 1007, comedy will only ever show up once. Now, other genres might show up as well, because that's why we're going through the trouble of doing this and leading to this. So this is perfectly legitimate, and this is the function that we're going for, but any given genre name will only show up once per movie ID. Okay? So this is a very useful way for modeling multi-valued attributes. Now, the one thing to take note of here, though, is it does not enable you, by design, it does not enable you to have a genre in the absence of a movie that belongs to that genre. If we were to try to put, okay, well, we know that we didn't used to carry horror movies, and now we're going to carry horror movies, so I want to put horror in here. You cannot do it unless you already have a movie that is assigned to horror. But that is typically no big deal. The flip side of that situation is when you delete the last movie of a given genre, you have lost the fact that that genre existed. But here, that's likely okay. All right? So there is an example of how to model a multi-valued attribute sensibly. To review or recap, movie doesn't need to have multiple genres necessarily. That is an artifact of your problem domain. That's for you to figure out as requirements gatherers and to model appropriately. Maybe, we have fine-grained categories like dramedy and romantic comedy and so forth that really preclude us from needing multiple genres at the same time for the same movie. But here's an example, at least, so that you know that you can do it and how to do it. Now, in the next lecture, I'm going to pick up where we left off here and talk about attributes that are not multi-valued, right? But that could be multi-valued, but that have an enumerated set of potential values. This time and again causes confusion for students. It needn't do so, and so I want to try to nip that in the bud. So please do tune in for that video as well. In the meantime, study hard, and I will see you online.